Alright, it's time for more 40k brand memes. That's right. What have we got today, Manuel? Oh, you're kidding. Oh, you're fucking kidding. We're really doing this? Honestly? Okay, fine. Let's do this. Erda. Erda. I've made enough jokes about hating her at this point that I guess I've gotta explain it now. That is both easier and harder than you would think. Because there's really only one big reason that nobody likes her existence. However, due to that unanimous hatred which would make the Tau seem popular, she has been decanonized to a frankly Leon Trotsky extent. Don't believe me? Well, on the official Warhammer 40k wiki, she is mentioned 6 times that I can find. Twice as an example, once under a picture, twice that she had some involvement with the creation of the Primarchs, and once under a list of notable perpetuals. She doesn't even have her own page. It's the page about the perpetuals. And I guess I've got to explain the perpetuals now. Simplest way for me to explain what a perpetual is? I don't fucking know! Starting to make these sort of videos, I've become a sort of adept at reading through the Warhammer wiki and its 2 offshoots. But I cannot figure out what perpetuals are for the life of me. They're immortal until they aren't. There are only a few of them until there are more. They look just like ordinary humans until they don't. The process of learning about these is like trying to cut off my own fingers with a butter knife. It's time-consuming, difficult, and if I succeed, I'm punished for it. They're a race of immortal humans. There, that's the definition and we're moving on. Erda was one of these immortals. So was the Emperor, and they grouped up sometime around the Mesopotamian times. Now, where did Erda come from? 6 mentions on the wiki. It doesn't really matter anyway, because she immediately signed on with the Big E, going on to become an ally so trusted and important she doesn't become relevant again for another 30,000 years. Right around the end of the Unification Wars. Once the Emperor had gotten Terra in line and committed the biggest team kill in history with the Thunder Warriors, it was time to create the Primarchs, which were known as artificial perpetuals at the time. Why artificial, I couldn't tell you. However, we want to make more immortal demigods, and we've got 2 right here. One's a man, one's a woman. We can get this project done the old-fashioned way. Hey. No, we can't. Because always remember, folks, for all the death, torture, atrocities, and general horrible times in the universe of 40k, sex is completely out of the question. You can lobotomize a man and turn him into a pain-racked cyborg for the rest of his existence, but consensual naked times between 2 people is taking it too far. That's enough axe grinding, for now. So the Primarchs are still created in test tubes and grown in their gestation pods. And it's right now that Erda does the thing that we all hate her for doing. Because the little e was becoming disillusioned with the big E at this point. She developed a motherly care for the Primarchs and was becoming concerned that once they were born, they'd be nothing more than a group of muscle men for the Emperor's will. That much is understandable. What is inexcusable was what she did next. As it became clear that Erda's plan to save her unborn children was the stupidest plan in the long sordid history of stupid plans. What she did was open a warp vortex either on or next to Terra, collect up all the pods, throw all of her kids into the vortex, and just walk away. There's being short-sighted, and then there's that. Best case scenario, she scattered the Primarchs around at random. Worst case scenario, she just passed her kids to the Chaos Gods like she was handing out free samples. Say what you will about the Big E, I think the Chaos Gods are just a little bit worse. Also, it's implied at one point that Erda may have been manipulated by the ruinous powers into doing this, but that's just as bad. Either she's short-sighted to the point of malevolence, saving the Primarchs from a father who's a little overbearing by throwing them into a dog pit, or she's a cross-eyed numbskull that just handed over the Primarchs to the very forces the Emperor was trying to fight against, which she knew about as well. If that was really the case, then an Ogryn could have outsmarted this bitch. But I'm more inclined to believe it was the latter reason of her being a terrible planner to the point of criminal negligence. Because like I said, once the pods were gone, she just washed her hands of the whole affair and went about her business. Not just immediately afterwards either. When the Emperor found and reunited all of the Primarchs, she did nothing. When Horus was being corrupted by the Chaos Gods, she did nothing. When the heresy broke out, again, nothing. At the end of the heresy at the Siege of Terra, she did get involved for a little bit in a minor side quest that led to her implied death at the hands of Erebus of all people. So you know what, I take it back. Maybe Erda is the goddess queen of the short bus. It is a very safe bet to say that Erda is not canon anymore, if only as a form of hyper-witness protection. Because if she were still around, she would immediately undo the Horus heresy as all the Primarchs would come back together to rip her limb from limb, with Angron, Kurz, Korax, Mortarion, and the Lion being at the very front of that line. So if all of this isn't canon to the story, and no one wants it to be canon to the story, why would I tell you all this? Well, because it's funny, isn't it? It's funny once because of how utterly central to the story and completely absent from it one character can be at the same time. It's funny twice on how utterly terrible one decision can be. And it's funny 3 times over because of how nobody likes her. It's almost a thing of beauty, how none of it can work out. And I'm sure if GW had more time, they would have fleshed out Erda a bit more, made her at least kind of likable, gave her some presence, showed her how she was actually doing things behind the scenes during the heresy. But I'm going to go out on a limb here by saying, if you want to introduce a new character to your story, you shouldn't make that character's defining action something that could be seen as either incompetent to a psychotic degree or massively callous towards the people she's supposed to care about the most. It all falls apart the more you dissect it. And I will preserve Erda on those very grounds. So I suppose this wasn't really a meme, all things said and done. However, I am making it a meme, and by explaining the meme, I have now created the meme. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy or some horse shit. Because now I've explained to you everything about Erda. I'm so very sorry.